Picking up on your thought that it's a continuum of things, for instance, look at the issue of flooding in the country. Earlier in the year, we were talking about a drought. And so therefore the price of milk has gone up. And so we need water, we need rain. And now the rains have come and we have flooding and people are dying. And it just seems as if wherever you look across the public services in Kenya, there's a lack of planning, a lack of foresight, a lack of anticipation and taking advantage of situations that present themselves.
Well, I agree with you, and I do think that one of the sectors, by the way, that for me drives almost all the sectors is the environmental sector. The environment sector,
which of course is your area of expertise.
Which is my area of expertise. And the environment sector has been left alone a long time ago. That's why when you have an avalanche of rain coming and you have a drainage system blocking and you have these cycles of droughts and floods, these are resources. If you think in terms of floods, if you come up with a proper plan of flood control, this is water we can harness. Right now we are losing water to the Mediterranean Sea via Lake Victoria and some to the Indian Ocean. This water needs to be harnessed because a few months down the road, this is the water that we can use to produce food. And you can turn the sun, the energy of the sun, into photosynthesis and food, and therefore it's really, and it's not rocket science, there's technology to do this. I just think that I don't know whether it's a planning issue or whether an implementation issue. I think there are too many plans in Kenya. In my opinion, I think the biggest challenge is commitment and focus and determination to get things done and follow through. And sometimes I feel that the major challenge is uncoordinated interventions. You know, this ministry is doing this and this ministry is doing this. And this is where now, for example, in this particular grand coalition government, this is where the office of the Prime Minister is supposed to rally everybody together and say, okay, what's really going on? Who's doing what?
Professor Kiyapi, you served in the education, in the wildlife ministry though, didn't you? In the environment.
In the Ministry of Environment, yes.
And then, so as Mutegi asked, why didn't you do this? What plans did you put in place to stop this cycle of drought and floods?
First of all, I did a lot of things within a short time. I'll tell you, number one, we were the ones who did this Nairobi River thing. In this beautiful globe roundabout place.
That was Michuki's project.
No. Actually, Michuki found me when I was 90% done. It was done.
He just took the credit?
It was done in 2007, even when no minister was there because they were all campaigning. I was the one supervising, and we removed over 200 trucks of garbage accumulated in Kiyapi Street. Everybody knows that. I also am the one who created the Kenya Forest Service. I'm the one who created the National Climate Change Strategy. I started at least, and then when I was moved, the other people came and did it. I started the Mao Forest Initiative, and we had a very brilliant idea or strategy of what was to be done. It was not supposed to be evictions as such. It was supposed to be a participatory approach, and it's a well-known international concept. But when there was a lot of media publicity, the politicians hijacked it from us, and then again, unfortunately,
from the technocrats. Okay, yeah, I mean, we'll talk a bit more about that.
I want to say that I have contributed, and I have reports I've written about what can be done about many things in this country. But as I said, the government, the way the government is structured is so fragmented sometimes, and it always requires an oversight. It always requires somebody to look at.
We'll come back to that after the break. This is Cheche live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. Your opinions count too. So if you want to text, the number is 2442, and if you want to tweet, the handle is Cheche_TV. When we come back, we will explore more of Professor Kiyapi's public service record. Welcome back to Cheche, live on Citizen TV and Hot 96 FM. I'm Odwa Kamimo, along with panelists Mutegi Njau and David Makali. Our guest this morning is a man who says he wants to restore and build Kenya. He says he will not play with Kenyans or their aspirations. His name is Professor James Ole Kiyapi. If you want to text your questions to him, the number is 2442, and if you want to tweet, the handle is Cheche_TV. Now, before the break, Professor Kiyapi, you were telling us about your achievements, and you were talking about the Mao Forest. You also talked about, you claimed credit for the cleanup of Nairobi River. Let's go back to the Mao Forest.
Yes. By the way, there was a meeting of East African permanent secretaries, and we were looking at the Lake Victoria Basin. And you see, 65% of the water that goes to Lake Victoria comes from Kenya. So this group of permanent secretaries came to Kenya, and one of the areas we visited was the Mao Forest. That is way before the Mao issue came up. So I personally led the team because I was the PS of environment, and we went and visited with the communities, and I talked to the people, and the people said, PS, I think even with 1 billion, we can come and work together a program that will manage the transition of communities coming out and relocation and all that. So then, when the new Minister for Environment came, Mr. Honorable Michuki, the first assignment I took him was actually to fly him over Nairobi. The second assignment was to fly over the Mao, and I took all the media houses with us. So after the flying for 3 hours, we landed on Lake Nakuru National Park, and the Honorable Minister gave a very, very serious press conference, so the whole week, basically, the media created a high profile of this Mao issue. And then immediately, 1 week later, the Prime Minister also flew over the Mao, plus a few other ministers, the Minister of Water and so forth. So rightly so, the PM called a meeting of ministers to try and bring a coordinated intervention or action. But I think what really happened was that at that point, the issue was hijacked from the Ministry of Environment, and there was no serious intention or desire, at least, to find out what was our strategy, because Minister Michuki and I had a plan. What is it that we wanted to do? Up to today, I have to say that even though I'm an expert in environmental issues, even though I was the PS who started this, nobody in government ever asked me, and I was really at the government service. Nobody ever asked me, and I tried to intervene a lot of the times, and I couldn't get a chance. So I think that's really where the whole thing became politicized, but the original intention was to draw a program of intervention.
What would have happened?
Well, we would have, first of all, gone now to discuss with the communities, because there were issues of communities that have been there for years and years, and you can't just go and remove them. There are also issues of encroachment, those who came from somewhere because of speculation. So there were a whole range of diversity, but for me, I thought it should have been the Ministry of Environment issue. The role of the Prime Minister's office was really just more to bring the other ministry as necessary and more like coordination, but the Ministry of Environment should have been the lead ministry as it was originally. But in any case, as it is now, as it should be in the future, it must be a process that always involves community participation. And this, in forestry, in natural resource management, all over the world, these are matters that have been debated, that you cannot separate communities from resources that they have depended on over years. You must include them in decision-making processes. Don't simply go and evict and then...
You seem to be saying that the implementation went
yes.
awful.
Yes.
What is your general verdict over the way things stand right now?
Well, I think from where we are now, we need to go back and actually create relationships. And then, as I say, the principal word is participation. Okay. It is called participatory forest management. Okay. And you have to, it is inclusion. You cannot remove communities that have lived in Mao Forest for 100 years. Simply and say you're going to save the Mao Forest.
Okay, so that speaks to your record within the environment. Let's talk about your record as the Education Permanent Secretary.
Well, what about medical service? I was also medical service.
We will come to that.
Yes.
We will deal with the education because quite a few people, viewers, are texting in, asking, who is this? Who says that your ministry was one of the most corrupt in government. Were you part of the problem, or did you fail to take action? That came from Alan in Nairobi. And another viewer texts, let him talk about the education scandal.
Yes. Now, let me, in 2008, and in 2008, I was in the Ministry of Environment before I was moved to the Ministry of Medical Services. But in 2008-2009 financial year, there was a basket of money that the donors had put in the Ministry of Education. And it was called pool funds. So there was a fiduciary, there was some issue of accountability because of impress, and the donors requested that the internal audit of Treasury conducts a more extended audit, what we call a forensic audit of the funding from 2005 to 2009. Now, when I was moved to the ministry, and I was moved to the Ministry of Education in 2010, which is 2 years after the expenditure of the funds, I found that the audit was already three-quarter way being done. So the report came when I was now the PS. So when the report came and indicated that there was a loss, or what we call ineligible expense of 4.2 billion, and ineligible doesn't necessarily really mean lost. It means that money could have been spent but not spent exactly according to the donor conditions that was spelled out in the joint financing agreement. But when the report came out, I was then the PS, but I was not the PS when the money was being spent. So when it came out, basically there was a UN cry from the public, naturally and rightly so, that the minister and the PS should resign. What was not clarified by the then director of the Anti-Corruption Commission was when he said the minister and the PS, he didn't specify whether he meant the current PS or the PS who was there when this whole thing took place.
So what have you done to clear your name then?
Well, what I did, of course, I was now the PS who presided over the full accountability of the issue, because then I forced the officers to go back, look for the documents over the last 5 years, I mean from 2005 to 2008, which was a lot of work. And in the end, actually what happened was that the money breaks it as follows. $2.3 billion, Kenya shillings, was money that was supposed to have been lost, but it was really a reconciliation issue. That has now been done. The documentation was given to the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, and Treasury has agreed that, okay, the reconciliation has now been done. Then 1.9 billion was money that was disbursed directly to primary schools. There is also now evidence that that money actually went into school accounts. So whether the schools use the money for the intended purpose is a different issue, because then you will have to literally go and visit every school. But there is documentary evidence with the Parliamentary Accounts Committee and with the Ministry of Education to show that the money actually left the ministry.
There was a time when that Professor Ongeri had said that those people who stole the money was about, not many people, about 100 people, and they would be prosecuted. Well, and nobody was ever prosecuted.
No,
nobody.
No. When the report came out, everybody jumped to the conclusion that the money was lost, it was misappropriated, and we have a list of people. But really, when now the documentation became available, as I said, the 4.2 billion breaks as follows: 2.3 billion.
How do you know that the documents were not cooked? I mean, if you are going to look for document 2003, where are you going to get them?
No, they're there. All government documents are there, and the Kenya.
If it's a receipt, I'm supposed to have.
As I talk to you now, when I say a document is verified, it's not just the ministry saying, "Oh, here is a document, we are right." It has to be checked by the Kenya National
Audit Office.
Audit Office.
There are some people who are supposed to be buying water at exorbitant prices.
I'm just telling you that Parliamentary Accounts Committee directed the Kenya National Audit Office to verify, to check the documentation. And that issue is not actually closed, because even the Director of Public Prosecution has also said, let's just make sure we do more investigation before the matter can be closed. So I am not exonerating anybody. I'm only saying that as far as my personal involvement is concerned, I was not involved.
Okay.